Good morning, everyone. Welcome to El Show Sin Fronteras. This is Tuesday, so our show today will be in English. I am on the road in a new location. I'm in a man cave outside of Denver, Colorado, at the home of my husband's college roommate. So if you've been following me, you know that we're on the road con El Show Sin Fronteras in a combo summer family trip / bringing the bus to new locations. So today is a big event. Right after the show, we're going to pack up and head to the Mexican consulate in Denver, where we will be doing a pop-up with the bus and setting up coloring books for the kids and Know Your Rights materials. And then I'll also be doing a Know Your Rights presentation in the Mexican consulate, and then also doing a training for their staff. So it's a big, rather complex event, but the weather is cooperating. So yesterday in Denver, it was almost 100 degrees. And another thing you'll know if you've been following is that we've had AC trouble, which is like, anybody who knows RV travel, road travel, says this. Like, it doesn't matter if you have an old unit that you fixed up, which is what we have, or if you buy a brand new unit. I guess it's just like the business of taking this big house and driving it down the road where there's all these bumps and jostles and like stuff breaks. That is what occurs. And so it's the awning on your new RV, or for us, it's been the AC. So it's always something. And we are definitely learning that lesson of RV life. But we're having good family together time, and I'm really excited about the Denver consulate event. We've got a couple of more events cooking later this week. We'll be heading up toward Minnesota, where hopefully the weather will stay cool. So with all that being said, thanks guys for following along. If you're not following El Show Sin Fronteras on Instagram, please do, because we're putting most of our trip content and updates there. And I will get us to the news of the week, because as per the usual, there is a lot of news of the week. Reminder, this is an English show. Spanish shows are on Thursday. What we do here in these shows is give you guys immigration updates. I'm an immigration lawyer. I'm going to tell you the real truth about what's going on in the world of immigration. And then I'll be answering your live questions about your immigration cases. So feel free to start popping in your questions. We can have conversations, political discussions. So the alligator Alcatraz, this is item number 1, continues. There have been really horrific reports of human rights abuses in alligator Alcatraz. There have been reports of people, just indiscriminate racial profiling arrests that are going down, where, DACA, like dreamers, are getting taken. People who have green cards, even U.S. citizens, are getting caught up in raids. And these officers who are very emboldened and empowered, and many of them, the nice way to put it is enforcement minded. I think a more sort of real, reasonable is just like sadistic power trip people. And this has been caught on video. We've shared some of this stuff. They dehumanize brown people and don't care, don't listen to them, don't care, mistreat them. And that's been happening. And a lot of these people are ending up in alligator Alcatraz. I will also note that Senator John Cornyn out of Texas is putting in a bid to open a facility like alligator Alcatraz in Texas. Of course, no surprise. Senator Cornyn's going to get voted out in the midterms, I have no doubt. So anyway, that's coming to Texas. But alligator Alcatraz, as we know, is in Florida. It's in the middle of a swamp down this long road. Attorneys aren't able to access their clients there. Really horrific conditions, overcrowding, mosquito infestations, leaving people out in the elements in order to punish them, not enough food, medical care. I mean, just really bad situation. They've started deportation flights out of this facility. And what that means is that people are getting deported directly from alligator Alcatraz. There's a, what's it called? A tarmac at the facility. So people are being removed directly from the facility. Item number 2 on your news updates, in the, ICE accessing people's private data. We know that ICE has gone after data related to money transfers like Western Union, the IRS. They're trying to get information from other agencies. One of the agencies that they have asked for data from is SNAP, which is food stamps. It's a food stamp program that is only available for people who are citizens or who have had a green card for a long time. And yet ICE is trying to get that data. The good news is 20 states sued over that data, and we'll see how that goes. But I imagine that the federal government will put a stop on ICE being able to access that data. But this is just a bigger theme of ICE going after people's information within other federal agencies, which has not happened in the past. We had another high school student detained. This was in Connecticut. This is an 18-year-old Guatemalan student who was working. These arrests are shocking because they are children and they're in high school. The good news is there's a lot of community around students like this. Of course, the entire school community, if they're in sports, anything like that, it sort of like gets everyone informed and involved on the issue. And that's what's happening with this young man. We also had an Afghan interpreter who was under a valid visa be detained. This is someone named Zia, who was a military interpreter. Of course, we're seeing this a lot. A lot of people in Afghanistan who put themselves at risk, themselves and their families, by supporting the U.S. military have been denied entry. Their families have been separated by the cancellation of the parole programs, and then we're seeing some detentions too. So this is a real concern about the way that this country is responding to and treating our allies. And that's part of a broader theme and a problem, of course, with the Trump administration, is that they don't understand friendship. They don't understand allies, and they're just breaking relationships everywhere. Okay, I'm seeing some notes come in from my team. Let me see if I need to look at this. Okay, no, I don't think I need to respond to this. If y'all put them in the chat if there's something that you need me to respond to, okay? And then I'll ignore this other stuff. All right, let me get back to my notes on the news. Okay, we've had more asylum seekers get arrested at court appearances. I've talked to you guys a lot about this because this happened to a few of our clients at the very beginning of this process, which was in May. They started to deport or to dismiss cases in court, and then ICE is waiting outside of the courthouse to detain people. This is really, we've talked about this so much. It's so disgusting because these are people who are showing up for their legal appointment. They are doing what they need to do in order to get legal status, to do it the right way. The thing that conservatives for so long have been saying that they want, that they agree with, which is doing things the right way, doing things the legal way. This is that. This is what that looks like. And yet people are getting their cases dismissed and they're getting detained. And people, the stats also show these are people who don't have criminal histories. More than 75% of the people who have been detained and deported by DHS during the Trump administration have no criminal history. I mean, that is what the data shows. And yet on the daily, I have multitudes of comments on my videos from people saying, like, this is what criminals deserve. And sometimes you just start to get really frustrated. It's like, how do you combat such entrenched belief in misinformation? That, I think, is really what we're up against. The Trump administration has been so incredibly successful in convincing followers that immigrants are criminals. And I think it feels good to people who want to feel better about themselves and have a basic human instinct of hierarchy. And that when someone tells them that there's another person who's below them in the hierarchy, they are inclined to believe that because it feels satisfying to them. And that is what the Trump administration has done so successfully, has convinced people that immigrants are below them on the ladder and are also out to get them. They're also dangerous. And it's just this like incredibly deep and powerful persuasion that has already occurred. It has already happened. And I think that this is, people say I don't criticize Biden. This is one of the failures of Biden, was that he didn't combat this narrative while it began and allowed it to occur. Biden was mostly silent. He did a few things on immigration, but he wasn't really talking about it. And of course, neither was Kamala. There was silence. There has been silence coming from the Democrats about why immigration is important and why Trump is lying to us about immigration. And that unbalanced narrative has allowed this reality that we're living to occur. And it has allowed the people who are hearing and listening to what Trump is telling them to become so calcified in their beliefs about who immigrants are that it's a really, really tough thing to battle. And it's a tough narrative that we're up against. Those of us who understand the truth, we're going to have to really consistently talk about this stuff, get loud, not accept the fact that people are believing lies. We have to, it's fatiguing, but we cannot rest. That's why I keep saying, like, raise your voices, amplify your voices, share this stuff on social media. This is our job. This is our job now, is to combat the narrative. Back to the news, we've got expanded presence of the military at the southern border. There are 7,600 troops have been deployed along the southern border. This is, of course, during the time when we don't have, an issue along the southern border. So this is a waste of military resources, and it's a violation of some federal laws, most likely. There was some good news out of Chicago. The DOJ, the Department of Justice, sued the city of Chicago over its sanctuary city policies. And sanctuary cities, of course, are cities that essentially refuse to cooperate or comply on some level with federal immigration enforcement. Most of the time, this looks like restriction of access to the jails in local localities. Okay, that's mostly what a sanctuary city is. And it really, really upsets the Trump administration because they can't go in and just find people at the jails. And that's when they start sort of focusing on these places and doing all these raids and really strong and tough enforcement. And Chicago is definitely one of the targets of the Trump administration. Chicago, Denver, where I am right now, Los Angeles, Boston, sometimes New York, but probably in the future, given the new mayoral candidate, who is awesome. But anyway, this is what goes down in a sanctuary city. And unfortunately, it does, I think, draw the ire of the administration and ICE. And therefore, we do see more enforcement activities and raids in places that are sanctuary cities. So at the end of the day, immigrants in these locations end up being unsafe. Not that I don't think that they are a good idea. I mean, immigrants aren't safe anywhere. But it does draw more attention and focus and resources from the feds to sanctuary jurisdictions. In any event, DOJ sued the city of Chicago, and a federal judge dismissed the lawsuit. I mean, the Constitution is really clear on this. It's the 10th Amendment that says that the federal government cannot tell a state or a locality how to enforce public safety, that is within the purview of the locality, not the federal government. Let's see what else. We've got farm worker fear, construction fear, of course, with the raids and everything that's going on. Immigrants are not showing up to work. Crops are suffering. I read a statistic that construction is down in Dallas, Texas by 30% because construction workers are afraid to go. So we're starting to feel the economic impacts of all of this policy from the Trump administration. It's only going to get worse. And then the last news item before we start getting to your questions is a representative out of South Carolina. Her name is Nancy Mace. She went on and talked about like how her relaxation, her self-care is to go on YouTube and watch courthouse arrest videos of migrants who are going to court. And that's how she makes herself feel good and relaxed. And I think, what I think is, I mean, of course, it's disgusting. It's barbaric. It's horrific. this woman does not deserve public office. And also, when people like that are willing to tell the truth on TV, I think it makes the conversation more productive because we know what we're really dealing with. We're not having a fake conversation because Tom Homan and Lyons and all of these guys, who are at the head of the feds, they're polished enough to lie. They'll tell us that the reason that they're doing these raids is to protect the children who have been trafficked, or the reason that they're deporting vulnerable immigrants is because when immigrants are vulnerable and they don't report crime, and then public safety is dampened, and therefore we have to deport the immigrant victims of crime. Anyway, it doesn't make sense, but they get up there and they at least have some spin, and they're lying and people are believing them, that like, oh, there's some altruism going on here. They're doing this because they're trying to keep me safe, and therefore I can feel good about what's going on. Okay, that's the narrative that's happening on the national level, or with the conservatives who are more thoughtful and polished. And then these wackadoos, South Carolina representative who hasn't done a lot of like PR training, gets on TV and she's like, oh, I like to relax and watch people get arrested. It's like, this is the truth. She is telling the truth. All these other guys that are pretending like they're protecting us are lying. So at least we can have the real conversation when people like her get on TV and tell the truth. It's gross and really disturbing, but at least then we're getting down to the heart of the matter, So that's your news of the week. Let me start getting to your comments. Oh, we've got a lot coming in. Sorry, guys. I wasn't looking at the comments. I was like on the news. So anyway, well, I'll get to them. I'll be fast. Sebastian and TikTok, update on DACA. No, we're not. We don't have an update on DACA. We're still in the same position, which is that the Fifth Circuit has ruled that the program is legal. Good news. But that in the state of Texas, there's a difference between deferred action, which means protection against deportation, and work permission. And that Ken Paxton, who's the Attorney General of Texas, argued that the state of Texas should not have to give work permits to Dreamers. So call your Attorney General in Texas and tell him you disagree with him, if you do, which I imagine that you do. So Texas is really in limbo about whether we're going to be able to have work permission for Dreamers. It's up in the air. Nothing is final. I don't recommend like panic or moving, certainly at this point, because your work permit stays, you're not going to lose your work permit if the order comes down that Texas doesn't do work permission. There are some things that you can think about, like, do you have a permanent address outside of the state of Texas, like where your parents live and you go visit periodically and you receive mail there, and that you just travel into Texas to work? That's one workaround. But in any event, DACA is still on hold. They are accepting DACA initial applications. I do think if anybody qualifies for DACA initial, you should file. You should file your application because you might lose your window of eligibility. And of course, if you are in that camp, you know what that feels like because you didn't originally file and you've been waiting all these years without legal status. So you know the risk. So I would say go ahead and file. That's the update on DACA. Lauren, as a wife of someone out of status, your content is so helpful. Thank you, Lauren, for saying that. I'm sorry that you guys are dealing with this issue. I'd be happy to chat with you guys. I'm sure you've already thought through all the ins and outs, but as you probably know, DACA recipients who have an unlawful entry or entry without inspection can still get advanced parole to go leave the country and get back in legally. That's if you have a humanitarian, educational, or employment reason to go out. So humanitarian is like you have a sick relative. Educational is you have a study abroad program. Employment is your company wants to send you to a conference, right? These are some of the examples. So you apply for permission to leave and re-enter. Then you have a legal entry. Then you can apply for adjustment of status through marriage to a U.S. citizen. So there is a relatively simple and fast way to get a green card for Dreamers once you're married to U.S. citizens. So if you guys haven't, Lauren, already explored this, you and your husband, reach out. We're still doing free consultations virtually all over the globe, all over the 50 U.S. states. Immigration law is federal, so you don't need an attorney right down the street from you. You can hire anybody you want. And so feel free to reach out and we'd be happy to do a consultation on this. And Lucy and TikTok. Do we handle detained cases? We do. We have a really expert detained team. They've been doing this work for many, many years, and they're amazing. So they're busy, but not too busy. We limit the amount of cases that we can take in so that we don't overwhelm them. The max number of cases that we can currently take for detained people is 10 cases per week. And we are available right now if you know someone who needs detention representation. I will say one quick point on detained cases. It's better to hire your lawyer or have a relationship with your lawyer before the detention. We can take a case that someone we've never met before for detained work, but it's much better and faster if we've already met them and we already know family history, immigration history, criminal history. We even have collected documents. And you might say like, oh, well, we don't qualify for anything. Why would we hire you? Totally agree. We are relaunching a program that we first launched during the Trump administration 1.0. It's called the Luz en el Camino plan. It's light on the path. This is a package where we are offering to people who don't qualify for anything else. Like we wouldn't do this for you if you qualify for a U visa or a T visa because we'd rather you get in legal status. But if you don't qualify for legal status, Luz en el Camino gives you a relationship with us where we'll give you a letter of representation that you can carry with you, gives you a list of documents that we want to collect from you so we have them at the ready. It gives you a VIP line direct to one of our lawyers in case you have legal questions, and we'll provide you with updates. So this is an annual program that you can become a client of the firm. We'll be able and ready to act quickly if you get detained, even if you don't have option for legal status. So that's something that we are just now getting off the ground. Again, we did it however many years ago, but here we are doing it again. From Mac on TikTok, I have a question. Do you know where the women and children are going when ICE takes them? So most of the families who get detained are going to the Dilley Detention Center in South Texas. It's a facility that holds around 3,000 people, and it is specific for families. So there are men and women and children under the age of 18 who are being held at Dilley. That's where most of them are being taken. Some families get separated. We represent a young woman. I can tell you about her case because she's done media. Her name is Wendy. She's 19, and her family's Cuban. They're asylum seekers, and her mom and her dad and her little brother, who's 9, and Wendy went to their ICE check-in on Wendy's 19th birthday, and they were separated. Wendy was sent to the adult facility, and mom, dad, and the little brother were sent to the family detention center. No, don't bark at me. And the mom and the dad and the brother got released, thankfully. And Wendy had her bond hearing on Friday, and she had one of the toughest judges, and he denied her release. Wendy is a college student. She's going into her sophomore year in college. She has a 3.8 GPA, and she wants to be a pediatrician. I mean, it's just like so horrific what's happening to these families. But that's where the families are going. They're going to Dilley. Isabel de Aro, I'm a resident. I was arrested in 2011, but the case was dismissed. Is there any problem when I cross the border? I think we should consult Isabel about your case. If the arrest was for anything related to weapons, possession, theft, anything violent, or anything related to drugs. So weapons, theft, violence, or drugs. Any crimes related to any of those 4 categories, I think we should consult even if the case was dismissed before you leave the country. Probably it will be fine, and we'll be able to say just like carry proof of your dismissal. Like you'd want to get a court certified copy of the dismissal with the stamp. And then you could probably be fine to travel, but there's some grounds of deportability that don't require a conviction, where ICE can hold someone deportable if they have a reason to believe that they are a drug trafficker, for example. And so sometimes they'll spin these arrests into suspicion, even without a conviction. And so you have to be careful. So I'd want to talk to you and look at make sure you've got the right paperwork before you travel, because they are doing some arrests of permanent residents at the border patrol officer. This is what happens is in times like these, agents who are on a power trip go totally bonkers. They do whatever they want and they don't have anybody to rein them in. So some officer who's just a miserable human being who wants to hurt people just does this stuff at the border, just detains people, and there's nobody to check them. So it does start to get pretty dangerous, and you have to be squeaky clean and make sure they have no way that they could arrest you. So you do have to be extra careful. KG Beauty on TikTok. My husband is a resident. I'm under DACA. How long is the process for him to petition me? It sort of depends on what country you're from, but in general, the process for him to petition to do the I-130 for the priority date is about 2 years wait. But then I need to know whether you need a waiver, because if you got DACA after you turned 18 and a half, then you need to consular process. Well, actually, if he's a permanent resident, this changes things. Let's consult, because I want to know if he's eligible for citizenship. That might be better I need to know how you entered the country, if you've had any exits, when your husband's eligible for citizenship. These are the things I need to know in order to tell you how long it's going to take and the best method. So the easiest thing to do is just reach out for consultation. We're not charging. They are virtual. You don't have to leave your house. We can get you all the information in a private conversation. Jeevan, I don't know how to say your name. Jeevan. I had an N400 interview in May. Clean case, passed the test. Congratulations. But still waiting for the decision. Normal. No, not normal. You need to submit an inquiry to the field office about what's going on. I would recommend consulting with a lawyer to review your case. I know you say it's clean. I want to make sure there's no tax debt, no child support debt. I want to talk about how you got your green card, make sure there were no issues there, no fraud, nothing with, like, if you got it through marriage, are you divorced now, stuff like that. What would they be looking at? And your travel history. Those are the things that I would want to review and make sure we don't have any issues, and then would do a status inquiry with essentially the supervisor over the unit in your field office. It's probably just sitting on somebody's desk somewhere stuck. That's the likeliest outcome, but it could be that it's been sent to review to Homeland Security investigations, like if there's something that flagged for them. And if that's the case, we want to get ahead of it, know what it's about, and maybe proactively communicate with them. Aaron in Instagram, my Costa Rican husband received his green card on December 30th of 2024. Well, that must have been a relief. What great timing for you guys. We want to stay till he gets his citizenship in a few years, but things are getting scary. Any recommendations on how to protect or when to leave? I don't see any risks for him if he's a recent green card recipient, doesn't have a criminal history. He's Costa Rican. This is not a nationality that they care about, really. They're more focused from South and Central America. They're focused on communist countries, Venezuela and Cuba, and then Middle Eastern countries. Those are sort of the big areas of focus for the Trump administration. I don't see a lot of risk for a new permanent resident from Costa Rica. So I agree. I think staying and getting his citizenship makes the most sense, because then you're free to do whatever. And if you guys have this dual nationality option in your lives, you're probably going to spend time back and forth, wanting to live and go wherever. And if he's a green card holder, he can't do that. He's got to stay put in the United States or he'll lose it. So I think definitely staying, getting his citizenship, and then you're free would be great. And it's only a 3-year wait because you are a U.S. citizen. So if it was in December, you can file 90 days before the 30th anniversary. So file around September of 2027, and then you can do whatever once he gets his citizenship. Instagram from Jenny Lambert, could a bill be passed to protect any immigrants who have a record of working more than 5 years and no criminal charges, especially if married? Oops, I lost the question. Thank you. Especially if married to a citizen and or with the kids. totally a bill could be passed. And this is something that I think, I know we get tired of like, call your legislators, but they care. They tally the calls that they get. So you could call your congressman, your senator, and say, I want immigration reform so that people who have lived in this country for many years, they have ties to this country, like relatives here, they've been, good moral character. I want a pathway to legal status for these people. I still hold out hope that this might happen. I know it's crazy. I know it sounds crazy that I would even be optimistic like that. But here's my memory. In the summer of 2018, the Trump administration started taking kids away from their families at the border. And everybody, like, there were photos that went out, stories that went out, videos that went out, and it grabbed the hearts of America because we're all families, right? Everybody is a family. We all are children of parents. Many of us have our own children, and all of us are able to envision what it would be like if we got separated from our families, right? We're all able to say, like, that would be the most horrible thing ever. So it allows people to empathize for immigrants in a way that they don't otherwise do. And so when we start to see stories of family separations and children being taken from their parents, the American public reacts. That happened in 2018, and that policy shifted within a few months. That is happening this summer too. We're seeing these horrific stories of families being separated, and people are getting upset. And the Trump administration might hear this message. They might care enough about public opinion with the polls and all of that to make a shift and to start being pro immigration something, right? So we might, especially before the midterms, so we might just possibly get something before the midterms. It's a pie in the sky, but I hold out hope. Adrian, what if you had DACA and it expired right before the program was halted? Well, the program has never been halted for DACA recipients. There's been a lot of litigation up and down the Supreme Court, circuit, courts of appeals, blah, blah, blah. But the program has never stopped for the people who already had work permits. So Adrian, if your work permit expired and you didn't renew it, you are treated as a DACA initial applicant, but you can go ahead and apply. They're not processing those applications right now, but they are actually, there's a lawsuit that's forcing them to process them. So I think it would make sense if your work permit expired to go ahead and reapply now, and then you'll be able to hopefully renew. All right. Do I have more questions from the team? Yes. Okay. Ashley, Elizabeth, and TikTok. And then I'm going to have to get going, guys. I got to get to the consulate in Denver to do our event. So Ashley, I'll do one more question after yours, Ashley. If someone entered the country without inspection and left over land, do they generally know? No, there's not really a tracker. There hasn't been a tracker on departures. They don't know. Chispa de Bomba. I love that name. Thanks for being here with me again. Have you encountered any recent cases for Cuban Adjustment Act filed within the last 2 months being granted approval for a single person? No. I haven't specifically asked my team. I know that they paused them for a minute and then they reopened them. And so they are theoretically being processed. I don't know if within my team we've had CAA cases approved within the last 2 months. Aaron, thank you. Most valuable resource. Oh, thanks. We found online. I appreciate your insight. That's why I'm here, folks. I'm here to spread the information that I have in my brain and that I learn every day. And like I said at the beginning, we have to be, our voices have to be as loud of a drumbeat as the conservative voices, telling people that immigrants are dangerous and that they're here to eat pets and nonsense like that. We have to be over here as loud, talking about why immigration matters and how we support and appreciate immigrants and defend their dignity, because that's the only way we're going to balance out this conversation. So I appreciate all of you guys being here with me and questions and comments. It really helps me keep me going, talking to you all online. So thank you so much. Action tip of the week. There's all these little things we can do. We talk about calling your legislators. registering to vote, knowing who your state reps are, getting involved in politics, going to the protests, talking about stuff on social media, supporting your immigrant friends by bringing them food, checking on them, learning their immigration story, learning your own family's immigration story, just infusing your daily life with this issue. Let's do a journal entry. I'm going to do this too. I got my journal right here. I got this at the McDonald Observatory in Texas. Isn't that pretty? So let's journal for 10 minutes about what home means to you, because it means a lot of different things to different people. And most of the people who have immigrated here, for them, home is really family, and they're doing what they do for their family. And I think that's something that we can all certainly relate to. So love you guys. Thanks for being with me. I'll see you on Thursday in Espanol. I think I'll be in Nebraska, but I'll tell you where I am when we talk on Thursday. Bye, everybody.